The things, being a Brexiter, and I don't really believe we've had Brexit.
Harold, do you mind? Harold! This is Harold, our bull. He's pretty soppy, but he's getting annoyed with me. In 2016, they didn't say that Brexit would ensure hormone-fed beef and chlorinated chicken. Had they done that, then I'm absolutely certain that the majority would have been enormous for remaining in the European Union. But the truth of the matter is that the decision for Brexit was exactly that. The reason we have the trade barriers now since Brexit is to be able to diverge from European standards and deregulate, which means accept lower standards. And we are now once again looking face to face at Donald Trump and begging for a trade deal. Keir Starmer is. And Nigel Farage this weekend has come out and said he's very happy to take chlorinated chicken. He's happy for you to eat it, he means. He won't be eating it. And he's happy to have hormone-fed beef. He wants to be the friend of the farmer, as I've said before, but you can't be the friend of the British farmer and want an American trade deal, because the two things can't exist together. An American trade deal means decimation of British farming. And Nigel has conceded this because he said, well, I believe in higher standards, selling the higher standard British food, having access to farmers' markets. This is a joke, and it shows that he knows that that means British farming will be absolutely shrunk down to only selling a few bits of cuts of meat in the odd farmer's market. We don't have the abattoir system nationally to support farmers' markets like they have in France. All of that system went years ago because most of our food is sold in supermarkets. And so Nigel Farage is talking an absolute loads of codswallop as normal. All polling shows the majority in the country is absolutely united in opposition to chlorinated chicken and hormone-fed beef, and they do not want to embrace Trump.
What exactly are you willing to swallow, more relevantly? Chlorinated chicken, hormone-injected beef, these are both issues that have been highly controversial in a potential trade deal with the US. Nigel Farage has said over the weekend that he thinks it's worth allowing those products into the UK in order to get a trade deal with America. He says if British consumers don't want to eat them, well, they don't have to. In fact, he believes that farmers' markets are now allowing British consumers to be more discerning about their food and to go for locally sourced products, etc., etc., etc. Is it that simple, though? If chlorinated chicken gets into the food chain here, it'll get into all sorts of factories, it'll end up in chicken nuggets, won't it? And all sorts of other chicken products that we won't necessarily check the back of. David in Sunderland says no, stand up to America. Matt says, Paul, any trade deal with America will only be to the benefit of America. We need to forge a closer alignment to Europe, not Trump's America. John in Manchester says even if you let them sell their chicken in the UK, make them put a made in the USA label on it, I and lots of other people certainly won't be buying it, he says. Gareth says our farmers have to suffer and our health has to suffer, also we can sell more luxury cars to rich Americans. Let's pick this up now with John from Enfield, who's phoned in this morning. Morning, John.
Oh, hello, Paul. Yeah, those trophy hunters, maybe we could force-feed them with the hormone-infected beef and the chlorinated chickens.
Well, they're probably eating it in America, aren't they, anyway? So quite a lot of trophy hunting goes on in America, or Americans going trophy hunting anyway, so... Yeah,
a couple of things. Being a Brexiter, and I don't really believe we've had Brexit. This is one of the few things I think we should adhere to what Europe is doing in terms of its food standards, yeah? With the hormone-infected beef, you just don't know what the long-term effects. I mean, I'm a vegetarian, so it's not going to affect me so much.
Yeah.
But you don't know what the long-term effects of that are to the people. So what are the NHS costs going to be as well for that? And once that food gets into the chain, Mr. John Redwood says, "Oh, people got a choice." I don't really trust once it gets to the chain whether it's going to actually be disguised. You know, people are not going to know what they're eating. Do you remember a number of years ago, people ended up having eating horse's meat? I didn't even know.
Yeah. That was in minced beef.
The John Redwood talks about we take salads which are chlorinated. Yeah, that's a false argument, because you know what, salads are not actually grown. I don't want to use bad language, in feces. Yeah. Now, chlorinated chicken is America's way. It's a cheap way of raising chickens, and they're actually allowed to walk around in their feces. Yeah. And how they get around that, or they think they get around that issue, is then they spray it with chlorine that they can sell on. And I heard I think on LBC a while ago, that I think 1 in 6 Americans are actually go down in terms of food poisoning from chickens. Yeah. So once this gets into the food chain, God help us.
Yeah. All right, John, thank you so much for your call this morning. Daniel's texted in from Golders Green saying, the question you're asking about UK consumers potentially being subjected to chlorinated chicken is a moot point, as the UK government has repeatedly confirmed they will not lower any UK food standards or remove any ban on chlorinated chickens or hormone-injected beef as part of a UK-US trade deal. The government has said that, Daniel, but these negotiations are only just beginning. Rachel Reeves flies off to Washington this week. Government line continues to be they don't want chlorinated chicken, but other political parties, as we said on the airwaves this morning, for example, Reform UK, are arguing it is worth having chlorinated chicken if it means doing a trade deal. My point is, what if we get to a moment this week where the US says, look, it's either chlorinated chicken or no deal? At that point, do we accept chlorinated chicken? Do we put pressure on our government to accept it? Or do we stand up for our principles and say we don't want to lower food standards? That's the question here. Peter's in Derby. Morning, Peter.
Good morning, Paul. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Hope you are too. Are you happy with chlorinated chicken if it means a trade deal with America?
Absolutely not. But my point and the reason for calling in is that you had Redwood on earlier, and he was an advocate for Brexit. Brexit's been a disaster for this country, and right now the UK is trying to wrestle with an octopus. It is ridiculous. So why are we having a conversation about this? Why on earth are we saying, shall we allow something that could potentially be very bad for us into our country? Oh, don't worry, people can read it on the shelves, right? So the second leg of the octopus is your average person in the street. They go, right, what's the cheapest thing on the shelves? The third thing is, I can do all 8 legs of the octopus. But, Paul, you know where I'm going with
Give me
this,
3.
right?
Give me 3 legs.
Right, okay. So the third one is, I need to feed my kids, but I haven't got any money. I want to be healthy. I want to be fit and healthy, right? So you need to eat like cheap food. No, you don't need to eat cheap food. You need the right food. Well, the food's the wrong price. So we've there's an elephant in the room, not an octopus, right? Brexit has been, and your previous caller who voted Remain, and anybody that voted, leave Europe, anybody that voted to leave Europe should hang their heads in shame. They should hang their heads in shame. This is, we're not stopping here. We're actually, here's another leg of the octopus, right? Farage is now going, let's leave the European Convention on Human Rights. What? Do you know what that does for us? People haven't woken up to what's really going on. There's a group of people that have made millions out of Brexit. Redwood is one of them. It was the MP for Wokingham in the late 80s. It was the Welsh minister, couldn't speak Welsh and mind singing the Welsh national anthem. If these people are funny and laughing at the rest of us.
Okay.
As we okay. Quick answer.
Yeah.
Just say no to America.
Okay. All right, Peter, thank you for your call. So Peter says just as simple as that. Just say no to America. We don't want chlorinated chicken. We don't want hormone-injected beef.
Are we doing this? Why are we continuing to live with Brexit? Brexit is not a finished thing. Every day that we live with it, it does more and more damage. And that damage is compounded. And it's going to be very, very difficult to ever regain the ground that we have lost.
Update on Daisy. The vet looked at her today. Her cough is fine, but she's got a bad leg and she's definitely losing condition. So there's something wrong. It could just be that the pregnancy is taking its toll on her. But we're keeping a careful eye on her.